You're tuned into 32 FM 94.9. The first station dedicated to bringing you joy, happiness, and laughter.
A very good morning to you out there. This is 32 FM 94.9, filling the world with laughter. We're back again. It's the Break of Dawn paper review, and as always, we are looking at the major headlines coming out of the newspapers this morning. My name is Kenny Durotilu.
And I am DENIKE Ademoagonwe. Kickstart from the Punch this morning. Nigeria owes China, Japan, Germany, two others $4.85 billion. Emefiele appeals court summons, challenges George. Envy stops Abiola from emerging president. This is coming from Olusegun Obasanjo. Just by the logo of the Punch, you'll find fans excited over possible Wizkid Davido historic tour. So the major story on the Punch this morning, you can find fuel scarcity bites harder. Marketers blame NNPCL. Ipman to sell petrol at 270 naira per litre as supply gap widens, lingers. NNPC GMD defends subsidy. Oil production now 1.52. Away from that, you can find train attack. 2 Edo chiefs, 5 others arrested. Federal government asks U.S. to probe Nigerian Don's death. And finally, from the Punch, Delta 2022, monumental medal paddling taints National Sports Festival.
From the Guardian front page, you find these stories. In politics, 2023, I'll rather lose election than lose life. During my campaign, says ADP Guba candidate. 2 village chiefs, 5 others arrested over Edo train attack. Customs seizes 112.68 million naira contraband, 700 machetes in Port Harcourt. Elsewhere, Tinubu loves Igbos. That's a statement credited to Umahi. Alleged drug deal, Abba Kyari others. No fate. Match 22. 2023 poll, Tinubu will grant women 35% representation in government, says Oluremi. NGO urges government to take policy decisions on improving welfare of older persons. 5.8 magnitude quake injures at least 70 in Iran. Ondo government extends maternity leave to 6 months. That's another story there. Also, let's take a couple more from the Guardian newspaper. Restructuring and the APC Manifesto Part 2. That's an editorial piece from the Guardian. And lastly, seasonal influenza and its prevention. That's talking health there out of the Guardian.
Daily Post this morning, Labour Party boasts of mammoth crowd at presidential rally in Kaduna. Big people are behind Nigeria's problem, Kwakwanso. 2023, rejects my husband if he fails to perform as president, Tinubu's wife to Nigerians. And you can also find 4 die in Ondo road accident. World's oldest person, Catholic nun sister, dies at 118. 2023, you can't fix Nigeria, only good identifying problems. Okowa's aide blasts Peter Obi. And you can find Oche Otokpa, Atiku's leadership of the economic management team. Obi Ekwesili lied. And you can find FEC OK's 2.29 billion naira for aircraft assembling plant in Nigeria. Israel confirms direct Nigeria flight begins March. 2 dead in auto crash at a Boeing APC rally. EFCC arrests convicted Yahoo boy, others for internet fraud in Benin. We will secure Nigeria. Will secure Unite Nigeria, Peter Obi promises Nigerians. And 3 more stories, and we move to another paper. WHO to establish new council to develop tuberculosis vaccine. Your video damaged Igbo politics. Buhari's aide tackles Kanayo. And finally, win your polling units to get appointments. Atiku to PDP members.
From the Premium Times, 2 village chiefs, 5 others arrested over terror attack on Nigerian train station. Also, you have the story, 2023 article lists condition for PDP members to get contract in its government if elected. At Chatham House, Kwakwanso speaks on failed alliance with Labour Party. IDPs to vote in general elections, INEC boss says there. Also, 1 killed as police traders clash in Lagos market. Gambia's Vice President, Badara Juf, is dead. Also from the Premium Times newspaper, NDLEA arrests 24,458 drug traffickers, secures 3,733 convictions in 24 months. That's according to MAWA. FEC okays NNPC's request to reconstruct 44 roads across Nigeria. Akwa Ibom Northwest, Supreme Court fixes date to decide on Akpabio's tussle for APC's senatorial ticket. Also, brain drain, best medical practitioner still Nigeria. That's according to the Pediatric Association president, insisting there. Also, Badbele stopped Abiola from becoming president. That's a statement credited to Obasanjo. I'll take a couple more from the Premium Times. Nigerian professor awarded Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship. Supreme Court dismisses appeal against PDP's Delta Federal Constituency candidate.
And to the Vanguard, gradual removal of petrol subsidies starts April. This is from the federal government. Drug trafficking charge, why NDLEA can't try me, Abakiari tells court. APC will clear all Kebbi votes in general election, state campaign council. Delta 2023 and those who live in glass houses. Away from that, 7 killed as police cultists clash in Aba, Benin City. And you can find road race, AFN read riot acts to organizers insist on registration. Patient dies after car runs over him in youth premises. 1 dies as story building collapses in Lagos. Neymar commences routine food distribution for Borno IDPs. Re-election. GSS 2 students rally support for re-election bid of Governor Abiodun. 2 chiefs, 5 others arrested over Edo train attack. You can find PVC collection. Uzodinma donates 27 vehicles to boost security in Imo. CBN urges bank to collect redesigned notes or face sanction. You can also find former Edo speaker refutes alleged diversion of vehicles donated to police. And a few more stories. CBN sensitizes traders on meeting deadline for phasing out old Naira notes. Atiku Gates, PDP's attack on Tinubu and admission of criminal guilt, APC, PCC. And finally, Peter Obi is the only option for good governance, Keftin Amoga.
The Nation newspaper has these stories. Court to rule March 22 on Abba Kyari. Others request to quash charge. APC PCC slams PDP for avoiding response to Atiku Gate. Wike lists cardinal quality of preferred presidential candidate. Why IG Usman's tenure was extended. Trade to rise as Israel-Nigeria direct flight restarts in March. Obi in Kaduna promises to secure Nigeria, unite citizens. APC chieftain for memorial lecture. Produce another president. Obasanjo challenges BBHS old boys. Also, police officers on election duties to have operational guidelines. Court dismisses lawyer suit seeking Tinubu's disqualification over same fate ticket. All right, we'll take a break right now. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at some other stories, taking the analysis of those stories and taking your reactions as well. To stay with us.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
ẹ̀yin tèmi àtúntì gbèdé o lójú ẹsẹ̀ tó ń gbóná fẹ́lí ìfilọ́lẹ̀ Glow Festival of Joy.
ayẹyẹ tó yílẹ̀ ayé yẹn padà látọwọ́ Glo ni.
gbàgede tó kún fún àwọn ẹ̀bùn jàǹkànjàǹkàn fún jíjẹ.
ilé tuntun lọ́nà ogún.
ọkọ̀ tuntun mẹ́rìnlélógún.
ẹ̀rọ ọgọ́rùn-ún kan tó ń pèsè iná.
ẹ̀rọ ìrọṣọ ọgọ́rùn-ún méjì. ẹ̀rọ afátẹ́gùn tó ń gbaná sára ẹgbẹ̀rún kan.
àtàwọn ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ẹgbẹ̀rún ẹ̀bùn tó ká màmá.
ṣáà ti tẹ *611# láti darapọ̀ mọ́ wọn kó o sì jẹ nínú ìfilọ́lẹ̀ Glo Festival of Joy. ra dátà tí ó tó ẹgbẹ̀rún lọ́nà ọgọ́rùn-ún náírà lásìkò ìfilọ́lẹ̀ yìí. ó dẹ̀ lè jẹ̀bú ilé tó o bá dẹ̀ ra ìwé ìpè tàbí dátà láti ọgọ́rùn-ún márùn-ún sí ẹgbẹ̀rún mẹ́wàá náírà lóṣooṣù lọ́sẹ̀ẹsẹ̀ àbí lójoojúmọ́. wà á ní àǹfààní àti jẹ ẹ̀bùn ọkọ̀ ayọ́kẹ́lẹ́ tuntun kan pẹ̀lú ẹ̀bùn tó ká mọ̀mọ́.
má lọ jókòó tẹ̀tẹ̀rẹ̀ má nà gẹ̀rẹ̀.
tẹ *611# ní báyìí láti darapọ̀ kó o dẹ̀ máa jẹ lọ àdéhùn àti àsọtẹ́lẹ̀ ó ń bẹ o.
Glo Unlimited.
kò sírú kan láwùjọ òkúta kò sírú yọ̀lé èpẹ̀ kò sírú Jupiter gas lásìkò yìí àyàfi tá a bá ń para ó tanra wa tómi bá ń jóná ẹni kí n kérò ẹ̀ wá Jupiter gas lójúlówó iléeṣẹ́ gáàsì tó ń ta afẹ́fẹ́ gáàsì ìdáná pẹ̀lú ìwọ̀n tó pé pérépéré wọn ò ní ta afẹ́fẹ́ díẹ̀ gáàsì díẹ̀ kò síbi tọ́wọ́jà irin òde ńlọrọ̀ iléeṣẹ́ wọn wọ́n ní mọ́tò tó lọ ń ta gáàsì fáwọn oníbàárà wọn lẹ́yìn odi Ìbàdàn láti Ìbàdàn dé Wó dókè Ògùn dèkìtì àti káàkiri ibòmíì gbogbo alára tó ta gáàsì ẹ máa yọ̀ torí pé Jupiter gas wà ń kalẹ̀ fún yín ẹ máa bọ̀ ní Jupiter gas iléeṣẹ́ tá a mọ̀ gbé kalẹ̀ fún rọrùn ẹni gbogbo ni nítorí kò sí mo débẹ̀ ń rí gáàsì rà owó wọn ò sì wọ́n gajara lọ àwọn nǹkan èlò ara gáàsì náà sì tún wà fún títà Jupiter gas wà ní kìlómítà 134 ayékalẹ̀ lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ ilé epo NNPC lójú ọ̀nà mọ́sọ̀ọ̀sẹ̀ Ìbàdàn sí ìlú Èkó tẹlifóònù 08059132979 Jupiter gas ojúlówó iléeṣẹ́ gáàsì tó ń ta ìwọ̀n tó pé pérépéré.
Are you looking for a quality hybrid of solar and wind? Solar panel, inverters, street lights, wind turbine, batteries. Well, look no further. Greater Light Power Limited is here to serve you with uninterrupted power generation, which makes them different from others. Greater Light Power Limited offers American-trained engineers for your installations. Contact Greater Light Power Limited at number 2 Ojo Badon Avenue, Old Bodija, Ibadan. For more information, call 0805-852-1994, 0817-759-5000. Website www.greaterlightpowerlimited.com. Greater Light Power Limited, bringing you a brighter life.
láti ìlọ mẹ́ka làlọ́dẹ you fit fly ní kẹjá lọ.
asalaamu alaikum gbogbo mùsùlùmí ilẹ̀kùn hajj 2023 ti ṣí sílẹ̀ fún gbogbo ẹni tó fẹ́ bá wa ṣèrìn àjò lọ́dún yìí iléeṣẹ́ alálùbáríkà you fit fly ní pé gbogbo wa o. hajj ìtọ́dún ní yàtọ̀ kọjá àtàtẹ̀yìnwá ṣe ti wá mọ̀ pé àtètè sùn ní àtètè jí ọ̀pọ̀ ti ń fọ́ kọ́lẹ̀ níléeṣẹ́ you fit fly ẹ̀yin náà tètè máa bọ̀ wá fọ́ kọ́lẹ̀ fún hajj 2023 tí ó wáyé láàrin ọjọ́ kẹẹ̀ẹ́dógún oṣù kẹfà sọ́jọ́ keje oṣù keje ọdún 2023 pẹ̀lú ọ̀pọ̀ ètò tó mú ìgbádùn rẹpẹtẹ dání ilégbé ìrọ̀rùn tí ò jìnnà sí haram àti mọ́ṣáláṣí ànábì Mádínà síyára ọ̀fẹ́ lójoojúmọ́ oúnjẹ àjẹdọ́wẹ́kẹ̀ lẹ́ẹ̀mẹ́ta lójúmọ́ tó fi mọ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ètò tí ó mú ká ẹ ṣe àṣepé hajj tọdún ní ajẹ́pẹ́ ẹ má fà kókò ṣòfò mọ́ ẹ wá darapọ̀ mọ́ àwọn hujjaj lọ́fíìsì you fit fly tó wà ní Success House 7 Up Road Olúyọ̀lé Main Estate Ring Road Ìbàdàn tàbí kẹ́ ẹ pè 0703-711-7801 hajj 2023 pẹ̀lú you fit fly inshallah àjọ lọ ni.
How far will she go for power in a world where secrets, ambition, and betrayal thrive? How fearless will she get in her quest to become a gold mogul? For Wura, she will cut corners. She will do whatever it takes.
Get ready for Showmax's first Nigerian original telenovela, Wura, coming January 23rd, only on Showmax. Subscribe from 1,200 Naira monthly. Sign up now at showmax.com.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
The Break of Dawn newspaper review on 32 FM 94.9. You're welcome back. I am DENIKE Adimuagu.
I'm Kenny Durutilu, and we have Professor Olu Ojedokun with us in the house. Good morning, Prof.
Of course, top of the day, and it's a pleasure to be here.
All right, let's start off with the major story out of the papers this morning. Edo State government has confirmed the arrest of 2 village chiefs in connection with the January 7 train attack, which resulted in the kidnap of 70 passengers there. That's a major story, like I said. And Your reaction to that, Prof, what do you make of that particular news that's coming out now?
I read the story yesterday and I was really wondering what was going on. But it seems as if the government is suggesting that there's some collaboration between those chiefs and between the so-called herdsmen that actually initiated the kidnapping. Obviously, it doesn't mean they're guilty, but what it means is that there's a prima facie case that needs to be investigated. I mean, it's interesting because normally when this kidnapping happens, we don't get any arrests. You understand?
Right.
And nothing happens. It goes quiet after a while. The trail goes cold. So maybe the prospects of this arrest will lead us, to the actual people who are responsible for the kidnapping. And I would hope that it will also lead to the release of those that still remain, if there are any that still remain within the wherever the kidnappers keep them. But it may be a welcome development, but let's see how far this goes.
On the optimistic side of things right now, these particular arrests that we're seeing, does that show that we picked up some lessons from the Kano train attack? Is that something that we might have learned? Is there something we might have learned from that particular incident?
Well, it's obviously something different. Whether it's we have learned a lesson, I'm not necessarily sure, but it's different actually in the sense, and some might say an improvement. But until people are prosecuted, until convictions are gained, I still feel you can pick up anybody. So but we'll wait and see. I think we have a watching brief on that to see whether it's going to be different from the Kaduna or indeed any other kidnapping that has occurred over the period of time.
All right, speaking of criminal investigations, ACP Kiari offered me 10 million naira to implicate Saraki. This is coming from one of the principal suspects in the resumed trial of the Offa bank robbery case. Now, this guy went on to describe the horrific things that were allegedly done to him to get him to implicate Bukola Saraki. This is such a huge allegation against the former Commander, Inspector General, Response Team, Abba Kiari.
Yes, it's quite serious, which means that obviously some shenanigans were going on. Doesn't mean it's been proven, but at least under cross-examination, we'll see whether that charge or that allegation has much weight. But it seems as if it was mired in politics and mired in smearing the characters of political operatives or political officers for whatever reason. It's a serious charge, needs to be proven, and let's see what the response will be, because there are two sides in any case. One side makes its argument, the other side cross-examines, and then you see whether, of course, that evidence stands to scrutiny. But it's very interesting that Bukola Saraki was targeted.
All right, moving on from that.
We'll take another one here. Big people are behind Nigeria's problems. That's a statement credited to Kwakwanso. He says the biggest problem confronting Nigerians are the elite, those at the top. Kwakwanso disclosed this while speaking about his vision for Nigeria at the Chatham House. He also did mention something about failing to reach a compromise with the LP party, which resulted in the failure of the merger that was proposed at the time. I'd like to get your take on those two issues.
Well, if he says that it's the big people in Nigeria that are the cause of the problem, then Kwankwaso is one of them, because he's been governor for 8 years, 2 terms, even though there was a gap in between. So he's one of them, and he's a self-critic of himself and a self-critic of the ruling class in Nigeria. And what I did not get is, what is he going to do about it to change the narrative? From that point of view, it's quite clear that he's removed himself from the PDP and the APC, because he's been in both parties, from that point of view. And it's quite clear that he's now running semi-independent, if you say that, because right. NNNP normally is a smaller party, that is dominated mainly in the north. As to the merger that we're talking about, it's quite clear that if NNP and Labour Party had merged, that there would have been a stronger force. There's no doubt about that. But some would say that ego got in the way, that it was the egos of the two men that got in the way. Who's going to be president, who's going to be vice president? Right. Because I think Kwankwaso was quite clear that Obi, being the junior, in quotation marks, should be his vice. And Obi thinking that the turn of the southeast, as it were, he should be the president, and Kwankwaso should have served, as his vice. But I'm convinced that it would have been a more formidable team. But it's possible that none of them would win at this point in time, just because they couldn't get their act together.
So ultimately, the ego hurts them here.
Absolutely. It could, yes. It depends on what happens after the election results. But for now, it would seem so.
Still speaking of Kwakwanso, he made a statement at Chatham House yesterday. Struggle over mineral resources caused terror in the north. And he talked about the terror in the northwest and the northeast is caused by struggle over mineral resources. Now, this is being said and brought to light in a foreign country on foreign soil. And like some people have said, our crude oil seems to be our biggest blessing as well as our biggest curse.
Yes, and I think when it's talking about mineral resources, it's not just limiting it to crude oil, which you've referred to, but also to gold. In Zamfara and those areas, there's been a lot of gold that they've been fighting over for years. And so that's part of it. Yes, the problem with the crude oil is the sense that when you have crude oil and when you have mineral resources and it's divorced from the people, is that government, you understand, doesn't see it as really the resources of the people. They see it as their own resources. Whereas when you have taxation, when you have taxes, then the people can legitimately, you understand, argue and hold the government responsible because the money comes from their pockets on a regular basis. So the cost of petroleum and the cost of all those minerals is that because it doesn't come directly from the people, sometimes the government doesn't seem very, very accountable in the way they spend the money. Most of the money of Nigerians came from the pockets of Nigerians' taxation. Then, of course, it would be easier for people to challenge the government and say, it's our tax dollars, our tax naira, our tax pounds that they are spending anyhow. But it comes from the ground, and people sometimes just ignore it and say, well, it's a national cake, and people divvy it up the way they should. But I also think the cost that you mentioned is the fact that there's been environmental degradation. And a lot of the environment has been degraded, and the people concerned have been left with actually nothing. Many of them were fishermen in the southeast, or south rather, and they can't fish anymore because their lands have been degraded. So that's part of the curse. The benefits of it is we've relied on these resources, and we've not been able to become self-sufficient in other areas.
But are these resources are we really benefiting from these resources? Because the federal government is saying in April there will be no more subsidy. So how exactly are we benefiting from these resources? Because we do not even know the kind of hardship that is coming to us in the next couple of months. The marketers are also projecting 6 months fuel scarcity. So how are we benefiting from this really?
First and foremost, there is hardly any country in the world that subsidizes petrol. They don't. You understand? Even the Saudis, to a limited extent, don't. So the benefit for us would have been the development of the economy, diversification, setting up arm's length companies. Like Brazil have their own arm's length companies, Saudi Arabia have their own arm's length company, rather than having NMPC, which was more or less part and parcel of the government. I think the benefit is not in subsidy, because even if the government removes the subsidy today, we can't afford it anyway. If they remove the subsidy today, there are ways in which they can plow this money back.
We can't afford the subsidy?
No, we can't, because we are borrowing. If you look at the deficit for this government since they've been around has been 14.28 trillion.
Okay, I thought you meant we can't afford to remove the subsidy.
Oh, we can afford to remove it. But
okay.
I mean, we can't afford to continue to have the subsidy because basically each time they're removing about 3 trillion plus or thereabout in order to service subsidy for 6 months. And you imagine that if half of that amount was plowed into imaginative programs, palliatives, not the kind of dodgy ones we had during the NSAL, but real palliatives from that point of view, then yes, some of the rich will suffer, in quotation marks, but we might be able to ensure that the middle class and those below the middle class are safeguarded, or there's a guardrail for them as it is. I bought petrol yesterday for 270. You understand? So where's the subsidy? Because the subsidy is fixed. It doesn't keep on going up. So the amount of petrol or whatever keeps on going up. But people will argue that Dangote's refinery is coming on board January 24th. And that all these ones they said they were going to renovate, I don't know what's happening to them. If they come on board, then it should reduce the need, you understand, to continue to import refined petroleum. And that may, you understand, reduce the amount of subsidy, you understand, that the government needs to pay and might affect the price of petrol.
Let's talk about...
Still on the fuel subsidy, Prof. Nigerians are feeling the heat now, talking about how scarce fuel is right now. And one of the issues in the papers this morning has to do with the marketers. They've accused the NMPCL of politicizing the supply process and making vain promises. 270 naira per litre at this time. Especially, I hear that's in Lagos.
Yes.
I don't know how much you got it recently. How long is this going to go on? This is, what's today? The 19th of January. This is something that started late last year. How long are we going to continue to endure this, have to endure this?
If, as far as we have a subsidy regime of this sort, we'll continue to get it, because you see, the sole importer of PMS is the NNPC. And so the responsibility lies with them. But when they import it, they also have the landing costs are covered. The landing costs are covered by this so-called subsidy from that point of view. And except we allow the markets to determine the real price, you understand? Because let me tell you, the price of PMS in Maiduguri and the price of Lagos are supposed to be the same, but they cannot. They're not really the same if you go by the market, forces from that point of view. Right. So I think that we will continue to have this problems over the next 6 months, because it's the problem of supply. There's also a hoarding problem, because people know, you understand, that it's bottleneck. And once there's a bottleneck, what they do is they hoard it so that they can sell at a maximum price. So if there's no subsidy, then it means that the market forces take over. And when the market forces take over, it means that the price is going to go up. Does it mean more suffering? Of course it means more suffering. But does it give the government an opportunity to intervene? Of course it gives them an opportunity to intervene creatively. So of course people are going to scream, are going to shout. After all, when it was 174 or 150 or 164, people were saying that if it went up, you understand, there was going to be so much economic dislocation, there's going to be so much riots and upheaval and so on and so forth. And it's gone up that.
We're here at 270.
Yes, 270, which is unimaginable. And yet, Nigerians are still being calm about it. Nigerians are still going about their business. And from that point of view, so I guarantee that if it went up, provided the government is able to introduce some programs, palliative programs of some sort, it may not be as bad as we speculate.
Okay, let's talk about the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku. Atiku tells supporters, you must win your polling booths to get appointment contract. Atiku said any member of the party who is interested in joining his cabinet or getting a contract in his administration must win his or her polling booth at the February 25 election. And he stated this during a town hall meeting in Abeokuta, Ogun State. So hereby, getting contracts, if he enters, will largely not be by competence, but by how well you deliver your polling booth. We're doing a transactional system of scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Well, I'm very disappointed with that coming from Atiku. I thought Atiku would have been more nuanced, and I thought he would have been more sophisticated in his approach. You've said it as it is. In other words, you understand, it's not going to be based on competence. It's not going to be based on the expertise. It's going to be based on political patronage. Patronage, simple. And no government runs like that. In fact, I think we've run it like that more or less, but nobody openly states that. And I think what he's trying to establish is that if this government comes in, he's going to be open about it and he's going to be clear about it, which means that if you want to chop, I chop, you understand, you must join the PDP and you must ensure, you understand, electorally, you win your vote. And I think what it also encourages, understand, people will go to any length because if I win my polling booth, then maybe some money is going to come my way. So people are not going to be going to do the job of political agent or so on and so forth because it's their job to do, but essentially because at the end of the day, they were expecting some reward from the government. How feasible is it anyway? What is there even money there to be given contracts here and there? He has not even addressed the fact that we have a deficit problem, you understand, and that there's no money in the kitty. You know, all this money is talking about that borrowed money that he will be borrowing to give to people who are probably going to be incompetent from that point of view. So it's very disappointing coming from Atiku, but it shows his desperation of some sort. They're all desperate anyway, so I don't think the desperation is limited to the PDP presidential candidate.
All right, Prof, let's have you speak on this headline. 2023 poll, Tinubu will grant women 35% representation in government, says Oluremi.
Good aspiration, but whether you're going to be able to hold him to it is another matter entirely. Buhari promised, or the APC through Buhari promised all sorts of things, and some people have suggested that most of the promises were never met. So there's no guarantee that when politicians get that they will meet it. But it's a very good worthy sentiment. But some people will argue that why should you segregate, or why should you give women some slots? And I would argue that women are a significant part of the population. I would argue that women are underrepresented in decision making, right. And I argue that if women are more represented in decision making, we would have better governance, from that point of view. And so we need to we need to skew the system in favor of women so that we can get better governance. But it should be for a period of time. Afterwards, then women and men, you understand, should get there on their own steam. So it's a very laudable objective, if he gets there. But whether we are going to be able to hold him to it or hold him to account is another matter entirely.
Let's look at this headline from the Daily Post. Bad Belle Nigerians stopped Abiola from becoming president. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo yesterday said those who prevented late MK Abiola from becoming president in 1993 are Bad Belle people. And he was talking about how he and MK are both alumni of the high school, Baptist Boys High School. Now, looking at the antecedent, is Obasanjo in the right moral standing to discuss about Abiola and the election in time past? And he also, at the time, said Abiola isn't the Messiah we were waiting for. And some Nigerians have alleged that he's even part of the Bad Belle people he speaks about.
Well, you've obviously done your research on that because I was very much aware. I was available during that time. And, of course, he said that. He said it's not the Messiah we're waiting for. And Obasanjo was, if I can remember, because he's been very selective in his memory. And there's an amazing going there. He was actually positioning himself to be head of the interim government, instead of Shoneko. So that's quite disingenuous from Olusegun Obasanjo. He has many attributes. He's one of the greatest living Nigerians ever. But on this particular point, I think he was one of the Bad Belle ones. So he's pointing back to himself as well as he's pointing to others. I think it was just tailoring what he was saying towards his audience. The audience was the Baptist school, and maybe he thinks that most of them were not avid readers of history. After all, when he was in government, he removed history from the curriculum, from that point of view. But thank God that many of us, even though it was removed from the curriculum, are still astute enough to see that Obasanjo played a role. It doesn't matter whether the next president comes from BC Baptist Boys High School or whether it comes from King's College, Lagos, where they should come from anyway, you understand? It doesn't matter, you understand? What matters is good governance from wherever they come from.
All right, we have to go to commercial break. When we come back, we'll take your reactions. Stay tuned.
32 FM 94.9.
Wait. Remember our guy, Femo? What a character.
Yes, remember his usual 15 naira for 1 hour bundle on YouTube.
As in, he always knows the latest hits and bangers.
Yes, so even his comedy and series game is top notch.
Remember his nickname now?
Mr. Do It On Your Own. And also his come and see how to be this and that. Bros is well rounded.
Ada, come and see how to be a fashion designer.
Get 1 hour of YouTube video data for 50 naira and 3 hours for 130 naira on the MTN network. Simply dial *131 *8 *1# today. There's YouTube data for everyone on the MTN network.
How far will she go for power in a world where secrets, ambition, and betrayal thrive? How fearless will she get in her quest to become a gold mogul? For Wura, she will cut corners. She will do whatever it takes.
Get ready for Showmax's first Nigerian original telenovela, Wura, coming January 23rd, only on Showmax. Subscribe from 1,200 naira monthly. Sign up now at showmax.com.
Hi, yours very sincerely, Dean of the Old School here. Join me on Saturday evenings from 9 up until 10 o'clock on Classics, evergreen musical razzmatazz, bringing back goosebumps and magic moments of year gone by. You can look forward to Parade of Jazz, Classic Soul, Disco, Funk, Reggae, High Life, and a whole lot more. Classics from 3 decades ensures keeping oldies and music legends in your memory. The password game gives you an opportunity to win something good simply for tuning in. Music Celebrity Birthday rounds off the program on weekly basis. Join Sanjay on Classics Saturday evenings from 9 up until 10 o'clock. Right here, 32 FM 94.9 radio station. Together, let's reminisce.
My guy, waiting the path now. Almost don't see the result. Guy, no be small thing, no, but trust you, Nana. One parallel. How you doing now? Fine, I be fine. No, so small house party go in place tomorrow. Jubo Kese go expect you for you tomorrow.
What time?
6 p.m. sharp.
Why you dey rush talk now?
See, my credit goes finish. My credit goes finish.
For this glue economy, now your credit dey finish.
I beg tell me another thing.
Oh, gas speedometer. No need to rush your call. Buy Glow SIM, and when you submit your NIN, then go first sama you up to free 20,000 naira for voice and data. And when you can't even subscribe to Glow, 11 kobo per second. Now to the make calls for as low as 11 kobo per second to all networks. It dey available to new and existing subscribers. Terms and conditions they shall.
Glow Unlimited. 32 FM 94.9.
Great to have you back with us. 32 FM 94.9. It's a Break of Dawn paper review. We're taking your reactions to the headlines now. 070-55,949, 080-97,949.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'll be calling from Lagos.
All right, let's hear you. Good morning.
You see, it is amazing how this government has cajoled everybody to believing that it is subsidy that is our problem. Please, let's think outside the box. An incompetent person, workman, will always argue, will tell you his tools is not okay, we need another tool. What has happened to the subsidy they removed from diesel and aviation fuel and kerosene? Even if they remove subsidy from petroleum, they will still not perform. An incompetent person remains an incompetent person. On Kwakwanso and Atiku, I am still amazed at how people follow them because fairness, there's no fairness in them. A northerner has just ruled us for 8 years, and they want another northerner to come and rule us for another 8 years. For me, it is a no. Please, have a nice day.
All right.
All right, thank you. Hello, good morning.
DENIKE, good morning. Kenny, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is okay. Prof, just like when I read Atiku Abubakar's statement, I just realized we are in Chop and Chop Nigeria PLC. Because I really was astounded telling people that they should win the award, and so that means we have thrown away competence. It's now on what you bring in that will make me give you position. If he wins, won't we be in big problem? And for ex-President Obasanjo, morally, I don't think our Baba is in a position to make that kind of statement. Because he had every right and things to correct one or two while he was. Even if, like what this government did, declaring June 12th, if he had done that, probably he's coming to talk now. Many of us would have actually said yes. But he messed up in it. So I don't think he has a right to make that kind of statement. Good morning. This is okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Omotayo Oluwarotimi on Facebook says, good morning. That Obi and Kwakwanso cannot agree on who should be the presidential candidate might mean there are more reasons and things to their vested interest. Hello. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
This is a lady from LA.
Please go on.
We should allow Baba be. Comparing the statement of Baba that Abiola is not the Messiah, it's different from you being a Messiah and you having the opportunity to rule. Before now, everybody would have been saying Buhari was being a Messiah. He's talking to his people there, so I don't think we need to hammer too much on what Baba says. Because to me, being a president is different from being a Messiah. You might be a president.
Your call has been placed on hold.
Okay.
All right, lost that one. Let's take this one. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Balkis Onodina from Ibadan. On subsidies renewable, I think Nigerians should brace up. When subsidies are finally removed, we may be buying petrol per litre for 400 naira or more. In my opinion, subsidies are scam. And of course, it's a criminal enterprise for most politicians. But my friends, when subsidies are finally removed, I hope these funds will not end up in personal accounts as usual. When we're buying petrol per 65 naira per liter, we condemn Jonathan. But now we are buying for 250 naira or more, as there are not even fixed prices because marketers sell as they wish. So let's prepare for subsidy removal because that enterprise is not sustainable. I'm only very worried because this administration condemns subsidies and finally they are paying what they call scams. Right. God help us in Nigeria.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, DENIKE.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I am calling from Ibadan. I think that it's high time we Nigerians make up their mind and let this government or this government remove this subsidy. It's not going to be fun with everybody, but I can tell you this will continue to put us in a big mess. Soil is selling for 270. Some people are paying for 200. It's not even available. If we remove it, we'll know we're dealing with a disaster. We'll know how to do it. Then the government can use the money for something else. But to think that whether they will steal it or they will not steal it and continue to suffer the average Nigerian and prices are skyrocketing is the biggest scam that we can ever deal with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning.
All right. Facebook, Timothy Okore says, Professor Peter Obi may win this election, judging by the mammoth crowds that greet his campaigns across the country. That of Kaduna yesterday has wowed me. A new Nigeria is possible.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Abiyoye.
All right, let's hear you.
From Oyo.
Okay.
So I want to make a contribution on the Kwakwanso statement.
Just go ahead.
I'm deciding with Kwakwanso. For him to say a state people is one of our opponents in this country. The last time I checked, Kwakwanso was former governor of Kano State, two-time governor, also the senator. He is one of the Kaba, one of our polling area in this country. Number two, I want to wrap up the question. Is there any benefit from removing the subsidy? People must be revenue from it. Please. That's my question.
All right. Thank you so much.
Is there any benefit for removing the subsidy? We know that the vast majority of this subsidy, or significant amount, is not even shared by Nigerians. It goes to Cameroon, it goes to Niger, and it goes to Republic of Benin. So part of the benefit, at least, is that at least we'll know that Nigerian money stays in Nigeria. People will suffer initially, but the federal government has more money to be able to run or whatever palliatives they want to bring to play.
All right, on Facebook, Tolu Lokpe Adeyemi says, it's quite disheartening that Nigerians can be experiencing this fuel scarcity, despite being one of leading oil-producing nations, because what's going to happen now that marketers are blaming NNPCL? What is making it difficult for this current APC-led government to rise to the occasion? Thank you very much for that one. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
All right.
Thank you, Paul, for that statement on that fuel subsidy. That's the reason why we need to insist that the Minister of Petroleum, Mr. President, need to come out and shed more light to this thing. Because I read it this morning, they also deduct 3.3 trillion for Federation account for this first subsidy last year. And what the minister said yesterday is that they are still borrowing money for this first subsidy just to import fuel, which is, we know that this thing is not sustainable. The sustainable is no longer again. Because all those things, there are some economic sabotage within the system that they achieve most from this thing, instead for the interest of the masses. So Mr. President needs to come out and shed more light to this thing. They don't need to put us on the suspect and tell us the reality instead of roaming within the circle. Because we know that the government of today like to deceive us instead of telling us the reality.
Okay, thank you very much for that one.
Balkis Onojiro on Facebook says, good morning. When fuel cost 65 naira per litre, Nigerians protested against Jonathan. Today, fuel costs 250 naira per litre or more, as there's no fixed price. Everyone should be ready for the removal of subsidies because they must be gradually phased out. They are unsustainable and also serve as a lucrative business for Nigerian politicians. Fuel may cost 400 naira or more when subsidies are removed. Nigerian oil theft is estimated to be at close to 90%, as we're unable to even meet up with OPEC's slated quota. We won't benefit from crude oil's benefit until our refineries are operating well.
All right, Prof, before we go, we're out of time now. Let's have your reactions, any reactions to any of the comments from our listeners.
I think a lot of Nigerians are waiting a lot of Nigerians are waiting for the voting to take place, where they can exercise their rights and where they can determine their future. Because what we have today is no future. What we have today is not something that we should dwell upon.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the Break of Dawn. It returns tomorrow. My name is DENIKE Ademuago.
I'm Kenny Durutilu. The Smart Kids Show is up next.